Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Glad to see you back. Today we're going to be needle tatting. I love tatting. I think it's just a wonderful lost art, really. Nobody seems to be tatting anymore. It's cheaper to buy finished garments than decorating plain garments that you may have made yourself. So it is a lost art, and I really enjoy the needle tatting. It is a challenge because when you finish something and it looks perfect, exactly like the pattern called for, it's quite an achievement. And there's different types of tatting. Obviously a needle. This is a shuttle. It has a spool built into it. And I'm not a huge fan of shuttle tatting. It's what I learned first, and I've never seemed to master it. So I won't be teaching this. Possibly never. There are different types of thread. There's the thick stuff, which is a number 10 cotton crochet thread. And I use it for demonstration purposes because it's big. And this is much finer, and it's a size 30 thread. You can see the difference just going up from a 10 to a 30. And the thread size goes up to 90. And that would be extremely fine, even for bobbin lace. I don't think I would ever use a 90. So to get started, first of all, where do you get these supplies? Well, I got my needle online. If you can get them locally, that's wonderful. I always support local business. I wasn't able to find them locally. I live in quite a small community in northern Alberta. So I had to order these online, and they're not very expensive, and you can get kits of 3 different sizes. These are really handy little holders for your needles. Also, if you have a secondhand store near you, check there first. You'll be helping someone in need for sure. I get remnants and I pick them up at our secondhand store. And just to give them a little plug, it's called New to You. I'm in Fairview, Alberta. And anything I buy there, the proceeds go to the women's shelter, which is just a fabulous thing to walk out of there knowing you've helped them. So rather than buying a full ball of thread, I can pick up, this is going to be enough to make probably 24 pair of earrings. So it's nice to get something used. This is a small ball that I got. Again, it has plenty of thread on this. It's quite thick. And then you can get the huge balls, which people would buy this if they were doing a tablecloth or many doilies. Anyway, so today this is what we're going to do. I just broke my needle threader, so I'm improvising today. Instead of a needle threader, I'm using invisible thread. The problem with this is that it really is invisible. So let's get started by threading the needle. I wish you could see this invisible thread, but it is there. And I will pull it through and pull my thread onto my needle. Magic. You don't leave a lot at the end of your needle, just enough that you can hold it so that it doesn't come off the needle, because that's really annoying when you're partway through a project and your thread comes off the needle. To do this project, I use about 3 feet of thread off the ball. The ball is always on the right-hand side, and your needle thread, once you've got 3 feet of it, that's going to be plenty. Your needle thread will always be on the right-hand side. Your ball thread will always be on your left. So today what we're going to learn is the basic stitch, how to do a double stitch, and that is all that's used in this project. So we'll be doing the ring first, and you'll learn how to do that. You'll learn how to do the picots. You'll learn to do the chain with picots and how to tie 2 rounds together with a picot. So let's get started. To start your first stitch, you want your thread to be between your needle and your pointer finger. And you hold that steady, and then you hold this thread from the ball. You will wrap over and under, and you see that cross, and you pick it up with your needle. And that's half the stitch. The second half of the stitch is you're still holding the thread in the same way, and you're going under your finger this time and towards you. And you'll see that you have a cross now this way. And when you pull your finger around, you have this loop. You need to grab that loop towards you. If you have a U, you're doing it right. And when you close that, this is what you have. This is your very first stitch. And if you macrame, it's a double half hitch stitch. Or double half hitch knot, I guess, if you're doing macrame. So the pattern calls for 5 stitches, then a picot, then 5 stitches, a picot, 5 stitches, picot, 5 stitches, and then close the ring. So we're going to do all of that. So we already have 1 stitch on the needle. So again, over and around. When you have the cross, you know you're right. You grab that thread and pull it to butt against the other one. And then the second half, under your finger and towards you, and grab the loop in that direction. If you have a U, it's correct. And you just pull it tight, but not too tight. You want it to be able to move freely on the needle because you are holding it here or wherever you want, but I like to hold my needle and my needle thread away so that when I do a stitch, I've only got this thread visual, and then I know I'm not going to use the wrong end of the thread. So that's 2 stitches. Over and around the X, pick up my thread, under and towards me, and pick up the stitch and pull it towards you. Now you have 3 stitches. Over and around, and this will become second nature for you very shortly. Under and over, grab that towards you, and now you have 4 stitches. The 5th stitch, under, and there you've got your first 5 stitches. Now it's time to make a picot. Picot is spelled P-I-C-O-T. It's a French word. You do not pronounce the T at the end, so it's picot. And to make a picot, I'm holding, as I always did, my fingers there holding the stitches in place. I come around, same stitch. When I pull on it, I'm not butting it against the previous needle. I'm leaving it this big. There's different sizes of picots. As you can see here, in the middle, there's a bigger picot. But for right now, we're just going to make a regular sized picot. And the other side of your stitch comes on. And now you have a space between your previous stitch and your current stitch. And when you butt it across, it makes this little loop, which is your picot. That's as easy as that. The pattern calls for 5 more stitches. This counts as 1. You can see that there's, the 5 here and a space and this 1. When I made my picot, I made my first stitch of the next series. So that counts as 1. 2. 3. 4. Now you can see there's this gap. Don't worry about it. It was the picot, and this can just be slid back together again. You haven't lost anything. Now, where were we? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. And now we do a large picot. To do a large picot, we're going to do exactly the same thing, except have a wider gap in here. Nothing else is different. And then the second half of that stitch, there. So that's 1 for the next series of 5. So we have a larger picot, regular and large. And a pattern would tell you what sizes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we need another picot. They're always balanced. Many patterns you'll have 3. A regular one, a large one, and a regular one again. On the ring, there are 3. This picot will be the same size as this one. So it's a regular sized picot. Finish the loop and pull it. And you can yank on these because you are not going to break the thread. This thread is huge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, this is the completed ring. Doesn't look like a ring because it's still on the needle. So in order to close the ring, which is what it's called on a pattern, you will hold this securely, very tight. And you want to hold this thread. You don't want to close it so this needle thread goes up and through. You need to hang on to part of the needle thread, and you'll see why in a second. As I pull the needle through, holding on very tightly here, I pull the needle, thread, and I keep pulling. Now here you want to be really careful. You don't want a knot there because it's just, they're really annoying. Now, I've got the end. As you can see here, the needle thread comes around. we've been working with ball thread around the needle thread. So now I need to catch this loop if I want to make a ring. I need to tighten this into a circle. So grabbing onto that loop, I'm still holding here. I am going to grab it and pull. I'm yanking on this stuff. Oops. There. It's quite forgiving with needle tatting. So here we've got our 2 regular picots. We've got our large picot, and we've closed it, always pulling on the needle thread, not the ball thread. Now we just want a simple knot, the same as you would do to tie your shoelace. And pull it tight. And our first ring is complete. You can take your needle and just stretch things out to make them look attractive and of the same size. Now, step 2, we've made our first ring. Now we want to make this chain. So we want to flip this over so that we're working on the ball thread on this side, the needle thread on this side. So to start the chain, we're going to do 5 stitches, small picot stitch, large picot stitch, small picot, and 5 stitches. And then we're going to take that off the needle at that point. So placing my needle where I joined and covering my little knot, I've got my needle thread, my ball thread, and I'm just going to start again in the usual way, pulling it tight. I don't want any space between the ring and the chain. There, it's my first stitch. I'm going to move that needle thread away, holding it away with my finger. Two, 3, 4, 5. Now, we are at the top here. We've just done those 5. Now we're going to do a regular picot, a large picot, a regular picot. So again, I'm holding it from tightening closed. Second half, and pick it up, and then slide it to make the picot. Sorry about the camera movement, I bumped it. And then, as you remember, that means we've got our first stitch already done. And we make one more stitch. So now we've got 2. Now the large picot, leaving more space. There. And another stitch makes the second stitch, and a regular picot. There. Now we've got these 3 picots and 5 stitches before we take it off the needle to match the other side. So this counts as 1 stitch, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so here you can see that everything lines up. We got 5 stitches, picot, stitch, picot, and 5. Now, to get this off the needle, I like to lay my thread down so that it's less likely to tangle as I pull it through. For the ring, we needed to be very careful to not pull the thread through. With a chain, you want to pull your thread through. And here goes. I'm holding, same as I did before, and I'm going to pull the needle thread through that chain. And this is where we would pull our needle through this loop if we were doing a ring. But because it's a chain, you want to pull it all the way through. The reason is you don't want this to close up like that one did. It's a connecting chain. So you pull on your needle thread and that bends it, and then a simple knot like you're tying your shoes. There. Now, the rings go into a different direction. I'm going to flip this over, ball thread on the left, needle thread on the right. Now we're going to do a second ring and join it to the first ring. So what we need to do, again, to start, I put my needle right above my little knot that I made, and I start with the first one being right against it. If I can see thread between this stitch and my chain, I'm going to take it off the needle and try again until it's really nicely butted together. So it calls for 5 stitches and then a picot, 5 stitches, picot, 5 stitches, picot, 5 stitches, close round. So that's 1, 2, 3. I hold this away. When you have a big tablecloth or a big doily, you would take this and fold it over your hand just so that you can see your stitch work. So that's 3, 4, and 5. Now we're not going to do a picot, we're going to join to the previous picot. To do that, I'm going to take my needle and put it through the hole, downwards through the hole, through the previous picot, I should say, and I'm going to pull my ball thread through that hole. Some people use a very tiny crochet hook to do this. There, it's on the needle now. I've joined the picot. When you're reading a pattern, we did the 5. The plus sign is a join. The dash is a regular sized picot. A longer dash is a large picot. Those are the symbols. And we are now at this spot in our pattern. And these stars, you would repeat everything between the stars and 7 more times. So let's just continue on. I have to get more ball thread loose here. So now we've attached it. I'm going to undo that, show you how, if I had made a mistake, I would just slide that off my needle there. So again, I want to connect with the very first or last, I guess it's the last picot of the previous ring. I'm going to get these stitches as close to the end of the needle as I can without falling off the edge of the needle. I am going to put my needle through that picot and pull the thread through. And now it's connected. So we need 5 more. This one does not count as one because we've not done a stitch. We've just grabbed the previous picot. So now we're going to do our 5 in the usual way. And you don't even see that join. You should just see the one picot that we're sharing with the new ring. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we need a large picot. Counts as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're going to do a small picot so that our next ring can grab onto that picot that we're making right now. So it will be a small picot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now this is what it looks like. It's exactly the same as the first one, except that we've, instead of making this picot, we've joined to the previous round. So now we need to close our ring. This is the last time we're going to do it in this video. And I'm pulling my thread through my work, needle thread, and I am grabbing on to this loop this way so it doesn't twist. And that's what it looks like. And I'm pulling it through the stitches we just made. And look at that, we've got a second ring, same as the first. I'm going to knot it. There we go. And flip it around. And that is how this was made. There you go. The next video I'm going to do is I'm going to do the next chain, and we're going to get most of this done, and then I'm going to show you how to end the work. So the last ring will have 2 joins, and then you'll have to do a last chain and tie off your work, and that will be complete. So thank you so much for watching the video. Give me a big old thumbs up and subscribe if you are not already subscribed. That way you'll get all of the videos that I post. You'll be notified. And if you can't do anything, at least be kind. That's all I ask. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.